So in the previous activity, we did a lot of work with radians and with some very weird angles, such as, for example, 13 pi over 6 or 5 pi over 4. What we're going to do today is we're going to figure out where do those angles actually go on the unit circle, on a circle. This will just give you a better idea about radians in general, make you feel more comfortable with radians. So to do this, we first need a nice big circle. Actually, this is too small. Let me just get a bigger circle going. Okay, eventually I'll get good at drawing circles. It's just taking me a long time. Okay, perfect. Now, let's start with first splitting the circle in 4 parts. Imagine this is a pizza, right? And if I split it in 4 parts, this is what it's going to look like, right? So I know right away that this is where 0 is usually. This is 0 degrees. And I know that over here I have pi degrees. And if I go around the full circle, so halfway around the circle, I have pi radians. And if I go fully around the circle, I have 2 pi radians. But how do I find the angles in between? So right now, if you notice, I split the circle in 4 equal parts, and each part is really a 90-degree angle. So let's start with a 90-degree angle. How much is a 90-degree angle in radians? Well, very easy. If half the circle is pi, and that is 180 degrees, then half of it has to be pi over 2. Pi over 2. 1 pi over 2. 1 times, right? 1 times pi over 2. So I know that this angle here is pi over 2. So I go 90 degrees and I go 1 pi over 2. If I go another 90 degrees, I have 2 times pi over 2. But guess what? If I cancel the 2's, this is really equal to pi, which I already wrote. Then I go another 90 degrees, and that becomes 3 times 90 degrees, or 3 times pi over 2. So this angle is really 3 pi over 2, over here. 3 pi over 2. If you convert it to degrees, you'll find out this is 270 degrees. Then I go another pi over 2. So here I had 3 times pi over 2. And here it's going to be 4 times pi over 2. But if I simplify this fraction, what I really get is 2 pi, which I already wrote in. So here's how I found those angles on the unit circle. It was very easy. I just found out that 90 degrees is equal to pi over 2, and I went 1 time pi over 2, then 2 times pi over 2, then 3 times pi over 2, and then 4 times pi over 2. I can do the same thing with, let's say, a 45-degree angle. 45-degree angle. So I'm going to continue splitting what I call my pizza. Instead of splitting it into 4 parts, I'm going to now split it into 8 parts. And right away, I'm really cutting those 90-degree angles in half. So I know that this blue angle over here, this little part, is going to be 45 degrees. How many of those do I have inside half a circle? I have 1 such angle, 2 such angles, so this is 1, 2, 3 such angles, 4 such angles. So really 45 degrees is just equal to pi over 4. So if I just go 45 degrees, I really have 1 pi over 4. And if I go to another 45 degrees, I get 2 times pi over 4. Here it's 1 times pi over 4. And I can simplify that, and it really becomes pi over 2, which I already have over here, right? Then I go another 45 degrees over here, and I get 3 pi over 4. 3 pi over 4. I cannot simplify that, so I'm just going to write 3 pi over 4. And then I go another 45 degrees, and I get 4 pi over 4. And guess what? I can simplify that, and it becomes pi, which I already have. Then I can keep going, and I get 5 pi over 4. I cannot simplify it, so I'm just going to write it here. Then 6 pi over 4, I can simplify that, and I get 3 pi over 2, which I already wrote in. I go another 45 degrees over here, and I get 7 pi over 4, nothing to simplify, so I'm just going to write it in. And finally, the last 45 degrees bring me to 8 pi over 4, which simplified becomes 2 pi. Okay, so now those weird angles like 3 pi over 4, if you see an angle like that, you right away should know that you're dealing with a 45-degree angle. Why are you dealing with a 45-degree angle? Because there are 4 such angles inside pi. There are 4 such angles inside pi. And if you know that it's 3 times pi over 4, you know that you have to count 1, 2, 3 such angles. 3 angles of 45 degrees. Okay, how else can I split my circle? I could also cut it in, let's say, 30-degree angles. Let's write over here 30-degree angles, right? If I do 30 degrees, this is somewhere, I need to then split half of the pizza. Half the pizza is 180 degrees. And if I split it in 30 degrees angles, I really get 6 such angles. So I need to split this part in 6. 1, 2, this will be 3 over here, 4, 5, and 6. Let me just put all the green lines so that you really can see this is 30 degrees, another 30 degrees. Here we have 30 degrees as well, 30 more, 30 more, and finally over here 30. So how many 30-degree angles fit inside 180? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 such angles. So really 30 degrees is just pi over 6. So I'm going to write over here. Let me just do it over here a little bit further away so I can see it better. Pi over 6. Right. And if I move another 2 times pi over 6, another 30 degrees, I get 2 pi over 6. But guess what? I can simplify that and it becomes pi over 3. Right? Now the denominator changed. So I'm going to use a different color over here. I'm going to say this is pi over 3. Okay? And then if I move another 30 degrees, right? Another 30 degrees, this is 3 times pi over 6. 30 degrees is pi over 6. Now I have 3 times pi over 6. I can simplify that and I get pi over 2, which I already have written in. Then I move 4 times pi over 6. I simplify that and I get 2 times pi over 3. Okay, I'm going to write this in yellow and you're going to see later on why I'm doing that. There's a reason. So it becomes 2 pi over 3. Okay, my pen's not working too well. 2 pi over 3. Next I move 5 another time. I have 5 times 30 degrees, which is 5 times pi over 6. I cannot simplify it, so it simply stays as 5 pi over 6. I think you should be getting what I'm doing by now, right? Then I go 6 pi over 6. This simplifies to just pi, which I already have over here. And then when I keep moving the same way, I'm going to split here my pizza again in 30-degree angles on the bottom. This is 30 degrees. I'm moving by 30 degrees. Became okay. Again, I have to split this in 6 parts. 1, 2, it's really continuous. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but now I'm continuing here 7, 8 parts, 9 parts, 10 parts, 11 parts, 12 parts. Oh my God, my pizza has 12 pieces and each piece has 30 degrees, right? So here I reached half the pizza, which is 6 parts, right? The whole pizza has 12 pieces of 30 degrees, or 12 pieces of pi over 6 degrees, which is the same as 30. And now I have to keep going. Next is I have 7 times 30 degrees, or 7 times pi over 6. I can do nothing with it. I cannot simplify it, so I'm going to write it in. Then 8 times pi over 6, and I can simplify this to turn into 4 pi over 3. 4 pi over 3. And then I need more space. Let's figure this out. Then I go, now I went 8 times pi over 6. Now I'm going to do 9 times pi over 6, and this simplifies to 3 pi over 2, which is already written in. And then I have to go 10 pi over 6, which simplified turns into 5 pi over 3. 5 pi over 3 is going to go over here. 5 pi over 3. If I move another 30 degrees, I went 10 times 30 degrees. Now I have 11 times pi over 6. I can do nothing. I cannot simplify it. And finally, I reached the end of my pizza. I have 12 pi over 6, which simplified goes back to 2 pi, which is what I already have over here. This looks like a very messy picture, but there's logic to it. And here's the logic. In black, you're seeing the 90-degree angles. What I really did is just I counted, 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2. When I simplify them, these are the radians I get. Then I went in blue, right, with my 45 degrees angles, and I did the same thing. I have 4 of those angles inside pi, so the 45-degree angle is really pi over 4, and I went 1 times pi over 4, 2 times pi over 4, 3 times pi over 4, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. And when I simplify those fractions, those are the radians I get. So when you see a 4 in a radian angle, you should always know you're dealing with a 45-degree angle somewhere. Okay, you're splitting the pizza those 90-degree angles in 45 degrees. Finally, if you notice, my unit circle has, let's say that this circle, this is here my x-axis, and over here, if I continue it, it becomes my y-axis, right? This is x and this is y. If you notice, the angles that are closest to x all have a 6 on the bottom. Okay? And the angles that are closest to y all have a 3 on the bottom. Okay? What you really are seeing here as well is that the ones I wrote in yellow, pi over 3 is really 60 degrees because it's 2 times 30 degrees. And then when I go another 60 degrees, I get 120 degrees, which is equal to 2 pi over 3. And if I go another 60 degrees here, I end up at 180 degrees. And if I go another 60 degrees over here, I end up at 180 plus 60, which is 240. Again, it's an angle divided by 3. And if I do this 60 degrees again, I get at 300 degrees, or at 5 pi over 3, and finally I end up at 360 degrees. So what's interesting about the angles that have a denominator of 3, first of all, they're closest to the y-axis, and second of all, they're multiples of 60. So those angles is really a 60-degree angle times something, times 1, times 2, times 3, etc. Okay? This is 1 times 60 degrees, 2 times 60 degrees. Here I have 3 times 60 degrees, 4 times, you see the 4 over here? Then 5 times 60 degrees, and finally 6 times pi over 3, which is 60 degrees, is really 2 pi, which I already have. And if you notice the green angles, they always have a denominator of 6. They always have a denominator of 6. They really show 30-degree angles, okay? Because 180 divided by 6 gives you 30 degrees. I know this may be a little confusing, but what I wanted you to see is that all those huge, weird fractions that are really showing radians, there's some logic to them, okay? So what I really need you to remember is when you see a 4, think of a 45-degree angle. When you see a 6, think of a 30-degree angle. When you see a 2, think of a 90-degree angle. And if you see a 3, think of a 60-degree angle. And just keep going as many times. If it's 2 pi over 3, that means you have to go 2 times by 60 degrees. If this is still confusing, please write me an email, let me know. We can talk about it further.